This podcast is produced by the Harwood Productions Podcast Network. To learn more about the network and to find more of our shows, visit us online at www.harwoodpodcast.com.
What a treat today. I'm going to show you how I make my pumpkin whoopie pies. Now, you may never have heard of whoopie pies. I hadn't until I had my first one. They're very common back in the eastern seaboard of the United States. And tradition says that Amish women used to put them in their husband's lunch and they would yell, "Whoopee!" Well, I don't know if that's exactly true, but let me show you how I make them. This is a great cookie because you make everything in one bowl and you don't even need a mixer. So we're going to first start by getting our dry ingredients in our bowl. We're going to start with 2 cups of flour. Then I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, and a half a teaspoon of salt. Then I'm going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon and a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground nutmeg. Now you can use pre-ground, but fresh just tastes so much better. Then I'm going to go ahead and get a cup of sugar, and I'm going to go ahead and put that into the bowl as well. Then I want to go ahead and mix these ingredients up. I want to make sure the spices get dispersed all throughout the flour and sugar. Now we're going to go ahead and add our wet ingredients. Now for the pumpkin part, you can just buy some canned pumpkin. It's not the kind with spices in it, it's just plain pumpkin. If you've cooked some pumpkin, you could use some of that as well. But we need 3/4 cup of cooked pureed pumpkin. We're going to put that in the bowl. And then we're going to go ahead and add 1 egg. Then 1/3 cup of oil. I use canola, but you could use vegetable if you'd like. And then 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Then use your whisk and start mixing this together. Now you're going to find right away that this is a very, very thick batter. But I do like to start with the whisk because it starts to get the ingredients blended. But then you do need to switch over to a spatula. Now these whoopie pies are so interesting because you can see this batter is very stiff, like a cookie batter, and yet when they bake up they're very much like a cake. So this batter is probably unlike a lot of batters that you've seen before. But once you do get everything mixed up, then it's time to get a baking sheet with a piece of parchment, and then I'm using a small cookie scoop, but what I want to end up with is getting about 2 tablespoons of batter on the cookie sheet. Now you'll see I'm leaving a lot of space. In fact, I actually stagger these, and I only end up putting 8 little balls of batter on this because they do spread out a little bit. So you do have to kind of think about making sure to leave enough room. Then another thing I like to do, if you notice these are very kind of mounded and rounded, what I like to do is get my small little offset spatula and just kind of mash down those tops a little bit. The whole cookie should be about 1/2 inch thick before you put it in the oven. So it's just a little flattening of that dome because it just helps the cookie look a little bit more even as it's baking and then once it's done. Then it's time to put these in a 375-degree oven, which is a little hotter than usual cookies, but for just 10 minutes. And when they come out, they're nice and golden like this. And see how nice and even the tops are. They aren't mounded. Do pull them right off the sheet because we don't want them to bake anymore. And you're going to end up doing 3 sheets of 8 cookies because we want to end up with exactly 24. Now once the cookies are cooled, it's time to make our filling, and we start with 4 tablespoons of softened butter, and notice I'm using my whisk attachment. Then I'm adding 2 ounces of cream cheese, and I'm going to let those whisk together until they get fluffy. Then kind of the secret ingredient for this filling is some marshmallow cream or marshmallow fluff, some people call it. And we want to get 1/3 of a cup of that. It's very sticky stuff. And also add a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And then 2/3 of a cup of powdered sugar. Then we let that just start mixing around and getting fluffy. Now, after a couple of minutes, you're going to notice that some of that powdered sugar is against the edges. So we're going to stop the mixer and scrape down, because it's really important that we get all of that sugar into the filling. And then I'm just going to put the mixer back down and let it whisk up until it's nice and fluffy, just like this. There's something about the combination in this filling of the cream cheese and that little bit of marshmallow and the butter and everything. It's a nice combination, not too sweet. Now, when I go to put these cookies together, I do like to take the filling out of the big mixer bowl, because I find it's just easier to get a handle. We're actually going to be using every drop of this filling, and sometimes if I have to reach down in the bowl too much, I don't get a chance to use it all. So when it's time to fill, all you do is take one cookie, flip it over, add about 2 tablespoons of the filling in the center, and then grab another cookie flat side down and put them together like a little sandwich, just like that. And there is your pumpkin whoopie pie. So again, you just put that right in the center, and you let kind of when the top cookie, when you put it on, you give it just a tiny little press down, and that filling kind of comes to the edges, and they just are so great. You will want to keep these after you make them in the refrigerator, because remember, we have cream cheese in this filling, and that is a dairy product. Now, another thing you can do is pop them into the freezer. I individually wrap these in plastic and then put them in a big freezer bag, and they can stay in the freezer for a couple of months if they last that long. And then when you want to eat one, you just pull it out of the freezer, and they warm up in about 15 to 20 minutes, so not a problem at all. Well, whoopee, here they are, pumpkin whoopie pies. They are so delicious. They're light, they're tender, they've got that pumpkin and that spice. They're a favorite around my house. Now, if you'd like to give them a try, just go to our website, go to the cookie jar show notes. I'll have the recipe there for you. And always, if you have any questions, please send me an email. I'll see you next time.